everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the Be Well at Coast webinar series. So you're today at the Power of Pause, Mindfulness and Meditation for Stress Management. So what a timely conversation today. It gives me pleasure to bring back Dr. Romy. Dr. Romy is a triple board certified physician and serves as Chief Wellness Officer for Evolution Hospitality, where she has implemented mindfulness and wellness programs for over 7,000 employees. She is on a mission to transform the brain and mental health in the workplace. Dr. Romy's expertise is routinely featured in the national media and on the global stages for corporations, athletes, and professional associations. Dr. Romy is bringing her innovative research based in neuroscience, integrative medicine, and mindfulness to teach the brain shift protocol. So get ready to take a break from your stress cycle and brain shift to up-level your performance and leadership. Dr. Romy, you were here in May, and because you were so popular, you're back by popular demand. Thank you for joining us, and I'm turning it over to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Rebecca, and hello everyone in sunny California. I miss it all there, and I miss all of you. I wish we were meeting in person, but alas, here we are. And I want to start by saying today is not necessarily going to be, I think, what we had planned with your committee, because when we spoke, we had the best of intentions. I met many of you in May. We were all in shelter at home, lockdown orders, and hoping that our lives would be different today than where they may be in the pandemic. I am sitting in Orlando, Florida. Most of you all are in California. Our chat party co-hostess Cindy, my head of speaking and media relations, who some of you met before we went live, is here with us today. And here's the reality is that the pandemic is continuing, and I am sorry, and I want to acknowledge that I know many of you were already going back to work this summer and you are now back at a shelter in place, or some of you are still working from home, itching to get back and see your work colleagues and see your students and everyone you serve. And so I want to take a pause and be present with you here and say, how can I be of service? Now, we have a slide deck prepared and we're going to go through some of it together if you want, but really my hour here with you is to see how can I help us all brain shift out of this stress and success cycle that we are all in. And I include myself in that. How many of you feel that since about 4 to 6 weeks ago, your stress levels feel like they're continuing or even increasing? You can type yes or no in the chat just so you can find the chat feature and know where it is. And if you're wondering why all the mentions of clothing were there, I just wanted to remind you all that you're in webinar mode. So take a pause and breathe. I hope you weren't stressing yourself out trying to clean your background and shove pets out of the view. We can't see you, but I can communicate with you through the chat window. This is meant to be just a quiet experience for you. So for those of you that are multitaskers, and I know who you are, my fellow type A personalities, I'm gonna ask you, could you just close the other windows, put your cell phone down? This is meant to be an hour of healing for both of you. So, who am I, Dr. Romy? You heard that intro, and Rebecca, thank you for that. And I love being back with you all. But the truth of the matter is exactly 10 years ago to this month, I wasn't playing doctor. I was in a hospital about to undergo life-saving surgery myself. I couldn't believe that I had landed there after running on this academic stress and success cycle like all of you, right? I was focused. I had entered neurology at a time where less than 5% of neurologists were women. I knew keep my head down and keep laser focused. But there was something that I felt like I couldn't tell anybody else. There were times I was just so overwhelmed with these 80 to 100-hour work weeks and not sleeping that I would have these waves of feeling anxiety, and I wasn't managing my stress. And I share this openly with you so that you know that I have been where you are, but it didn't get better for me. I started to have chest pain, and I couldn't believe what was happening. And I went to the doctor. I was responsible. And what did they tell you? What does every doctor tell you, including another doctor? You're just a type A personality and entirely too stressed out. Like every other doctor that comes in here, start the antacids, stop eating all of your favorite foods like chocolate and wine and all of that. It's like now, like every coping mechanism I could have is taken away, right? As a doctor, I'm admitting this, and it didn't get better. In fact, it got worse. And it turns out I have a rare medical disorder, and all that, worrying and stressing and obsessing made it worse. And I had precancerous lesions with my apalasia, this rare medical disorder. So we're, getting set for life-saving emergent surgery by the cardiothoracic surgery team at University of Washington in Seattle. And I'm sitting there, laying there, honestly to God, not wondering, what happens if I have cancer? Like I had my whole career ahead of me. Like I don't know what to do. I really wasn't worried with that. Instead, I was thinking, I did everything right. I went to school. I went to graduate school. I went internship, fellowship, two of them actually, research. I checked all the boxes. I married well, divorced even better, right? I had done it all. And on top of it, in fabulous shoes every day. And yet here I was. And so if you're sitting here feeling like the wind has been knocked out from underneath you, I got you, because it was at that time that the path of mindfulness and meditation were introduced to me, at a time where, listen, it wasn't this bougie thing where there's apps on your phone and your watch telling you, pause, girl, breathe, right? And you're like, yeah, I'll breathe later when I have time. I know. But that sent me on this life journey, and I started to feel better. That stress and anxiety was lifting, and I didn't feel so burnt out, but even more importantly, the chest pain was going away after surgery. I didn't need all those awful pain medicine. And then I knew I had, aha, there is a better way not only to take care of my brain and mental well-being, but to teach it to others and to patients. And so that's been my mission the last 5 years. And now we're bowled over in a pandemic. And I make this argument that, wellness used to be a luxury that some campuses like yours focused on, or companies, but for most people, it was not in their kind of way of thinking. They were focused on systems and operations and sales and leadership and how to be a better educator and all the other important things that are part of your job. But now you fast forward to where we are today in pandemic, at home, facing loneliness and the fear of the pandemic and the economic crisis, and having crucial conversations around ending systemic social injustices and racism. And we're all back in that same place thinking, I thought I did everything right. How did I get here? So welcome to here. Today is Thursday morning for most of you in California. And I'm here to be present to let's assess where your stress is. Cindy is going to put a link in the chat window for you all. And there, you're going to go to a website you can click and download the stress test. But listen, if you're on the phone or on a smart tablet and it's not easy to see it, just relax. I'm going to share it with us right now, and allow me, give me 1 second to get the share screen button on. Forgive me here, and we'll get that back and going. Right. And so I talk while you're downloading your stress test. And some of you that were on the call with me, you have your number. And I promised you, hey, I'm going to be back in 6 weeks. Let's see where we all are. But I don't know that any of us could have forecasted the news cycle was going to be where it was today. We talked last time of, oh, I need to find happiness. And what was happiness during the pandemic? All those like tone deaf leadership, experts were saying, oh, Rebecca, it's time to learn a foreign language. Claudia, why don't you take up a new hobby like knitting? Hey, John, why don't you train to run a marathon? I mean, if this pandemic is over and you didn't do any of those things, you failed. But that's not really true. We were trying to find happiness, and now we had this harsh reality of what's missing in our lives. We can't go to work, we can't go to school, people are losing their jobs. People have lost loved ones to COVID-19, and we started to worry and stress and obsess, and we watched the news. we tried something to make ourselves feel better. We stayed indoors. We followed the rules. I hope we all are. And we think we're going to get better. And next week, the news is going to be better. And we're back in a news cycle. That same news cycle that seems never ending bad news in 2020 is what our brain is undergoing. And we never really feel better. We're just stressing and obsessing and worrying every day, right? And stuck in that. And why is this important for those of you that are the thinkers and the analyzers and you'd like a little brain science today so we can understand why mindfulness is a solution? I just wanted to talk to you about what happens. This is our stress success cycle, or the stress brain loop in the brain. We can't shut it off. The news, the worrying, we're at home, we see people in masks. Our stress hormones are through the roof. And so we're stressing out. We're still eating comfort food. We talked about it last time. Not sleeping well. In fact, like, what's the comfort food that's trending now? Anybody have any good ideas? Cindy, what have you been craving? It sounds like we both had late days yesterday. We were both talking. We were in our workout clothes and never got a workout in. What have you been craving?
Yeah, you know, this week it's been Mexican food,
Mm.
Tex-Mex, guacamole,
Oh my gosh,
chips.
avocado is my soulmate. Yes. What else is everyone else craving on the line? Rebecca, Claudia, what else are we seeing in the chat? What do you think? Anyone craving any
Cheddar
food?
cheese ruffles, definitely.
Oh,
Ooh, cheddar cheese ruffles. Yes. And the potato chip bag is there. Yes. I had I hit gold, Cindy. I was cleaning out my pantry for something for my anxiety, and I found a box from last fall of Trader Joe's gluten-free pumpkin spice pancake mix. I had 4 pancakes for dinner last night. Yeah.
lovely. That's awesome. Some people said ramen.
That was me, Dr. Romy. I was craving wine and chocolate last time, and I think now I'm at ramen noodles like every day.
Every day. Okay, we're at ramen noodles. Anyone
French
else?
fries, pasta, tuna melt, ice cream, lasagna, chips, wine.
I see a theme of most of us are saying carbohydrates and that. And thank you everyone for not making fun of me for admitting that I got stoked about pumpkin spice. I was like, yay, it's Thanksgiving in July. This is maybe the good news we're going to have in 2020, right? But here it is I say this because we're still in this place, and that if eating comfort food is what you need to heal your body and your mind right now and your spirit, you do that, because the theme of this is, what is one thing you can do every day to nourish your spirit, your mind, and your body. And for most of us, these foods that I'm hearing so exciting, Rebecca talking about the ramen noodles or the cheddar cheese ruffles, Claudia was mentioning, is that it feeds our spirit when we're doing comfort food, that fight or flight response we talk. So we've had a little bit of time to download the stress test now as we were getting hungry, all of us, right? And let's go through it together. And just some basic questions. If you remember this from last time, or if you're new on this call or watching the recording later, there's a link that will also be available, drromy.com/rise, and it's in the chat window right now. And this is how you score the stress test. I want you to ask yourself on a scale of 0 to 5. So 0 is, this is not true for me today and the last week at all. Or 5 is like, oh my God, it's as if she's looking in the camera, like right at me at home in my pajamas right now, Dr. Romy. Number 1, do you experience problems falling asleep? If it's a not at all, put 0. Even if you needed wine or a fancy supplement to help you sleep, no judgment. And if that's happening because there's a marathon running in your mind, put a 5. Number 2, I experience problems staying asleep. 3, I frequently experience a second wind late at night. 4, I have energy highs and lows throughout the day. 5, I'm feeling tired all the time. 6, I need caffeine, whether it's coffee, tea, soda, energy drinks to get going in the morning, and maybe another one in the afternoon, right? I usually go to bed after 10 p.m. I'm getting less than 8 hours of sleep a night. 9, I'm easily fatigued. 10, things I used to enjoy seem like a chore. 11, my sex drive is lower than it used to be. 12, I suffer from depression, or I've recently been feeling, loss of motivation or sadness. 13, if I skip meals, I feel low energy, foggy, or disoriented. 14, my ability to handle stress has decreased. 15, I find that I'm easily irritated or upset. 16, I've had one or more stressful major life events lately. And this is a 5 for all of us. Unless you are already working from home full time and homeschooling your children, if you have children or children at home, for all of us, this is a 5. 17, I tend to overwork with little time for play or relaxation. 18, I'm craving sweets. 19, I frequently skip meals or eat sporadically. And 20, I'm experiencing more physical complaints such as muscle aches, headaches, or frequent illness. So what I want you to do is go back, and now no changing your numbers, go with your first instinct, and I want you to total up your score. And if you feel like writing it in the chat window, let us know what your total number is. And in fact, normally I see 1 or 2 people that are under 30, but right now, look, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We did the stress test with you all 5-6 weeks ago. We've been doing this with companies across the globe. Most people are well over a 40, where stress is starting to negatively impact that stress hormones I was talking about in your brain. They're starting to affect like how you think, right? Pandemic brain. Stress levels are really high, and you start feeling burnout, and you're wondering if you need to quit your job. Like, this work from home isn't for me. I'm leaving my job as faculty and as administrator. That's about 50. And 60, kind of like what I told you in the beginning, your stress is so bad, it's starting to take its toll on your physical health, and it's really dangerous. So Cindy, where do we think a lot of us are right now? What are we seeing?
Yeah, there's some that are in the 50s, a lot of 30s and 40s, but
Okay.
overall, people who were here last time say that they see that it has decreased from the last.
Wonderful. I'm glad. And for those of you that were here last time and you said your stress numbers decreased, I'd like you to put in the chat, what's something you think that's helped you decrease your stress levels, something you were doing for your mind or your body or your spirit, right? So put that in the chat window, and I'd love to understand what has been helping you. And if you're sitting there going, okay, Dr. Romy, my number is still really high, it's above 40, or I was doing okay last time and my number is higher this time given the news and the stress, and I'm really tired of working from home, that's okay. I'm going to give you a plan to start with today, and we're going to go there. Yes. So Cindy, do we have anything that anyone
Yeah,
is saying?
so we've got some yoga and meditation,
Nice. Okay.
getting off social media,
Oh, I think that is key.
reclaiming the diet and exercise regimen,
Mm-hmm.
deep breathing,
Good.
walking, puppy therapy. I love that. That's
Oh,
my favorite, Mary.
that's our favorite, Mary. Yes, and I feel so bad that Zoom doesn't allow us to share pictures. We would love to see a picture of your puppy. Maybe at the end of the Q&A, we can promote you to a panelist and we can all meet a puppy. Seeing all the new dogs and cats and pets that are arriving are great, right? So really what I'm hearing is you're all finding your way to calm that we talked about last time, but from time to time we're getting stuck in fear. But today I really wanted to focus on a mindfulness-based activity that we can all start together and do together. In fact, it's been my saving grace. And if I don't stop and I'm working late, I go back into that place of fear hijacking the brain and being stuck on a stress and success cycle. So for those of you that are new or you've never meditated, allow me to remind you as a brain doctor what I mean about mindfulness. Now, mindfulness does have its roots, and I want to be mindful of practices and cultural appropriation. Mindfulness does have roots in certain Eastern religions such as Jainism, Hinduism, Buddhism. But when mindfulness was first introduced in the 1970s in the United States by folks like Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, whose background is psychology, the idea was how could we find a global way to use the concepts of mindfulness in training the brain and training the function of the brain and the behavior of the brain and psychology and in neurology. And that's what I mean by mindfulness. Mindfulness is this idea that I'm training my brain to pay attention and that I want to be here now. And it's really hard because a lot of us are looking backwards and saying, oh, I miss my life before this pandemic, right? BC, before COVID-19. It's hard to be here now. I'm stuck in BC or AC after COVID-19. We're worried, when is the college campus going to open up for you all? Are students going to be virtual? Do you need to figure out your lesson plans virtually, right? It's really hard to be here now with all of that. And so I wanted to take a moment and share something with you. I'm just going to reach over here, and how many of you know what this is? Type in the chat window if you know what I'm holding up for you right now. And let me know if anybody else has Delta as their travel companion. On my team, we used to call Delta Airlines my travel husband. I feel like a widow right now. Anybody?
Yeah,
Yep,
I've got a lot of
luggage
luggage
tag.
tags. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so this is a luggage tag. This is even more important than a luggage tag. Cindy's gonna eye rolling right now, and I know. This was my boyfriend, travel boyfriend, gave me diamond medallion last year. That meant that as an entrepreneur, I was spending a lot more time in airports and with Delta than in my home and with my extended family and with my dog, right? I prior to this was traveling about 150,000 domestic miles to 175,000 domestic miles a year for my speaking and consulting career. And so why is this important? Well, I used to look at it as a measure of success in business, and I'm busy traveling. Well, this past weekend, I was sorting things out of the closet and I saw my carry-on rollerboard suitcase and the diamond medallion tag hanging there. And this grief just washed over me. Now, if you're sitting here listening, you're thinking, okay, Romy, over a luggage tag, that's really entitled. But I want you to take a moment and pause. What I'm talking about in psychological terms is a psychological negative trigger. But gosh, if I walked around saying, what are your psychological negative triggers today? It feels really yucky, doesn't it? So I call them our luggage tag moments. We all right now in our homes and in our lives are seeing little luggage tags that are tied to emotional baggage, and they carry you down a different trail. So what trail did I see? I remember Cindy looking at this luggage tag and then my dresses and saying, you know what, last week I was supposed to be in Anaheim speaking at a very large convention of a global finance association for maybe over 15,000 people. I don't know when something like that will ever happen again. And we were supposed to be launching my Brain Shift at Work protocol for the second big company last year for about 200 of their executives. I would have been in California and Indianapolis last week. And then I started to think of top line revenue. And I started to think of the team members that aren't with us and the business goals I have. And you can kind of see how one luggage tag took you down the emotional rabbit hole, right? And so that's what I wanted to talk about today is looking around your room or your space. What are your luggage tags, the triggers that are telling and hijacking your brain to push out those stress hormone levels? Because most of us think, oh no, I meditate, I do yoga, law of attraction, positive affirmations, whatever you do, it's all great. But when we don't pause and keep it real and look and say, I got a negative emotion and it sent me down the rabbit hole, a luggage tag moment, we stuff it down. And then I was on the news this morning talking about it. Why are people in near fist fights with each other over whether people are wearing a mask or not and projecting their anger? I think a lot, and I don't know if this is true for any of you all, I'm getting calls from my leaders at Evolution Hospitality who are normally very calm, and they're saying, God, Dr. Romy, I had an anxiety attack because I spilled coffee on my desk at work. Like, that's not me at all. What's wrong? It's because we're stuffing all of that emotional baggage away. So How many of you all can relate to, you'll see one thing and it reminds you of your life BC, before COVID? You can type yes or no. And that's why I'm here today, is how can we use mindfulness to do that? Yeah. Christine, Danielle, yes. Stressing over finances. Yeah, I understand, right? And so you'll see one small thing like a bill come online in your email inbox or that, and it just reminds you all about your finances. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that example, right? Many of you, your luggage tag moment is seeing your children at home, knowing, gosh, they should have been at summer camp or at school or away to college or internships this summer, right? That's another example of emotional grandchildren, seeing that, right? And remembering, what were our dreams and our hopes BC, before COVID? And how do I bring myself to the present moment and calm my brain down when all that emotional baggage is there? So that's why I'm here today. Your son graduated from college and no job is available. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm very sorry. Yeah. And so I can imagine when people say the word work or resume, it's triggering your son and you to worry and leading down that. Yeah, Mary, seeing your students on Zoom. Oh, I know. I'm so sorry. Yes. Every day for all of you that are working with your students, that's that luggage tag moment. Like, I want to be in the classroom and interacting with the students who you care about so deeply in person. Calendar entries of trips you were supposed to take. Cindy, yeah, thank you for sharing that. I concur, it is. Our lives before COVID. And so we sit here and I ask you and I tell you as a brain doctor, it's okay to feel sad. I actually felt like I was having a funeral for my luggage and my speaking wardrobe and my shoes this weekend. Again, it wasn't elitist. It was this reminder that business as we knew it in my company has completely changed. Business as you know it on college campuses has completely changed. And yet some of us are feeling stuck in the past and we can't come to present-centered awareness. So let's talk about a few exercises that can help us do it. Thank you for sharing your examples. And I hold that grief and that sadness and that emotional baggage that we're all feeling with us, right? So we go to Dr. Romy, well, how can mindfulness help us with that? And we come back here to this, how can I erase the judgment and the negative feelings of all these things every time I see your students' faces on Zoom, and remember things are not there, or you're looking at your grandchildren on FaceTime instead of in person? Well, the relaxation response in meditation tells our brain to kind of relax. And yeah, that emotion is there, but I'm going to clear it out of your mind, like I'm clearing extra mud off of the bottom of your shoe. And so I ask you, instead of trying to speed it over and say, no, I don't want to think about it now, I just need to power through. What if I said, in order to speed up, we must first slow down? So when I have a luggage tag moment that I'm showing you all, this is the first thing I do is I name my emotion. So I was just feeling deep sadness and grief, and then worry about our top line revenue and stressed and how are we going to not only pivot, but completely shift. And then we go into the brain break and the controlled breathing and the present centered awareness. And I want to teach you all how to do this, and we're going to do this together. Is, could we inhale for a count of 3, hold the breath for 1, and exhale for 4? And there's a reason I do it this way. Many of you who meditate are used to the box breathing, but as a brain doctor, and this is a pranayama, a yogic breathing technique that I love, and it's been studied for anxiety. When you have that busy brain and those negative emotions are just like taking over, it's to inhale and have a deeper exhale, because when we're blowing off that CO2, that deep exhale, it's changing the blood chemistry and then the chemistry in the brain, and it makes us relax and connect to that calm and say, I'm going to process this emotion and clear this emotional baggage out of my brain, rather than just stuffing it back into my subconscious, like in the back of the closet. And then the next time you open up the closet of your mind, everything falls out and you're really overwhelmed and anxious and angry and all of that, right? So let's give this a try. Our brain break. So I'm going to ask you all, for those of you that are taking notes or checking your email or on your phone, put it all down for me for a second. And let's take a collective brain break together. Good. I'll ask you to close your eyes. And if closing your eyes is hard or your children are in the room with you, why don't you all point to one object that's not moving? So not your cute new puppy, but an object that's not moving, and just focus on it. It can often be a candle, a painting, or a picture. And just softly take your gaze there and close your eyes. Good. And take a nice deep inhale. And as we inhale and hold the breath, I want you to take your head and neck and straighten out your posture. And let's line up our spine. Good. And exhale. Our life force, or that golden light, just breathing it down our spine. Take a nice deep inhale in through the nose and hold it. And deep exhale out. Beautiful. I'm going to add some counting to that. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Hold the breath for 1 and exhale. 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3. Hold the breath and deep exhale. 2, 3, 4. Now imagine as you take a breath, you're filling up air of the lungs of your colleagues at OCC. Inhale, collectively taking in that breath and holding it in your heart for everyone. And as you exhale, send that breath out to everybody. Beautiful. Now we think of our students and the clients we serve. Deep inhale in and hold, and deep exhale out. 3, 4, and we send breath there. And now we go inward and we focus on how we're feeling in this moment from the luggage tags that we see in our lives. And we take that emotion and honor it and name it. Inhale, hold it, and as we breathe, imagine that it's just processing through the bottom of your feet and your sit spine. Good. Now bring your breathing back to a normal pace. You can wiggle your toes in your socks or on your floor in your shoes. Wiggle your fingers. Clench your fists really tight. There's something that you're holding on to, a memory, a pain. And as you exhale, release it out. We're going to let go of the luggage tags. Good. And welcome back, and open up your eyes if your eyes were closed. Good. So that is a pranayama breathing technique. But that's one that I love using for naming and processing our emotions. That we're supposed to be happy and bubbly all the time, right? And that when we see a luggage tag, I want you to name your emotion and breathe it through. And if other people are in that worry, like your students, your clients, your colleagues, imagine that you're breathing for them too. And then just let it all go. Beautiful. Yeah. Cindy, is there any comments or questions around that meditation we received? Shall I get our slide back up?
Not yet.
Okay. No problem. So we'll go here. So we talked about naming and recognizing our negative emotions when luggage tags come up during the day. So if you're going to do one thing for yourself in the next week, I actually want you to go around and look at the luggage tags in your life. You got some great examples of it here, right? Looking at calendars of your trips, seeing your students on Zoom, and processing those emotions. And then understand that we can process and do that. Because it's not just about the luggage tag, but it's that, like, our lives were disrupted. Some of us have lost employees, or people have lost jobs in your loved one. A lot of us are stressed about finances. We miss our restaurants. We worry about their employees, going to the gym, all of those things that we've talked about. That's the emotional cascade. And then remember to change your environment and do this brain break. And I got this question asked a lot last time. And so just remember, if the anxiety still won't go away, because anxiety is a really common symptom, is to do something to scramble your mind. And aside from these activities that I'm sharing here, reciting the alphabet or doing that, I wanted to play the 2-2-2 game. Does anybody else feel overwhelmed sometimes with everything that's going on? You see a notification on your phone with the news that's come up, or you just saw the email that your campus closed again. Is that kind of bringing up that for anyone? I know when I see an email that another speaking engagement has gone virtual or it's canceled, it brings up this like overwhelming feeling. I can't get away. And I see, yes, yeah. So you see that, and I want you to give you this 2-2-2 game. And so I'm going to ask if you're in the chat to play it with me, and Cynthia, Claudia, and Rebecca, play it along with me too. What is the 2-2-2 game? So you're breathing and you're like, okay, Romy, I named my anxiety, I named my overwhelm, I named my stress, I did that breathing, and I'm still here. The problem is still there, right? It probably means that I'm still looking at the phone or the TV with the bad news on it, or I'm looking at my emails. So please step away from your devices, like step away from it all and do a daytime digital detox, and then do the 2-2-2 thing. So right now in the chat window, I want you, aside from this Zoom screen and your phone or laptop screen or however you're watching us right now, what are 2 things you can see in your field of vision right now? Cindy, while Claudia or Rebecca are unmuting themselves, what are 2 things you can see right now?
Yeah, so I see my reading glasses.
Mm-hmm.
And I have actually a stuffed chicken that was given to me by my children that sits above my desk.
Okay, I think if you can get the stuffed chicken down in the end when we do Q&A, you're going to have to show us your screen of the
Yes.
stuffed chicken.
I can show that to you later. Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
we want to see the puppy and we want to see the stuffed chicken that's on here. Rebecca or Claudia, so it's 2 things you're seeing, and I see window and painting of ocean and art candles. Thank you, water bottle and pen. Thank you.
But you don't want to hear mine, Dr. Romy. I have an iPad and 2 other phones.
Okay,
and I do have a glass of water.
Okay, a glass of water. So Rebecca, it's time to step away from the digital devices. I got it. We've got 2 computers here in case we have this, we have lights, 2 phones, like I get it, right? So 2 things. Claudia, I'm going to ask you, what are 2 things you can hear right now?
I can hear the click, click, clang of my son having his lunch. And I can also hear the birds right outside my window.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, right? Because often there's white noise. So in my little office space here, you can hear the air conditioning vent. I don't know if you all can hear it through the microphone, but when you tune out into that white noise in the background, or the birds that have just been the background for Claudia, it just shifts our mind. So 2 things you can see, 2 things you can hear. What are 2 things you can touch right now that are in your space? I'd love to read in the in there. Cindy, what are things that people can touch? I'm going to touch my cold drink.
Yes. Oops, sorry, my screen went off here for a second.
Things you can touch.
Yep.
Okay,
desk, their notepad.
Okay, yep. Touch your desk and touch your notepad, and be mindful of how it feels. Be present with that situation, just like you heard Claudia saying.
The coffee mug.
Okay.
Sunglasses.
And touch it. Touch the coffee mug, touch the sunglasses, right? Yeah, exactly.
Water bottle.
So 2 things you can see, 2 things you can hear, 2 things you can touch, and 2 things you can smell. Yes, and if you're going to do this, it's okay. You're not on video. Only I was, and you're like, oh my God, Dr. Romy just did that. Yeah, yes, right? 2 things you can smell. Oh, smell eggs. Candles and coffee. Lovely, right? And so as we do that 2-2-2 game, right? And we do this, and I actually want you to physically right now, I just walked you through it. So let's all collectively do it together. And you don't need to type or say out loud for those of you that are co-hosting with me right now, what you're doing. Take a moment now to just take your gaze away from your computer screen and iPhone screen. And what are 2 things you can see? And I really want you to look at them and look at the details of them. And take a deep breath. And exhale. Good. And what are 2 things you can hear right now? And just listen and process that sound. Deep breath in and exhale. And now what are 2 things near you that you can physically touch? And touch them. And notice the sensations as you touch those 2 things. And now What are 2 things you can smell, right? And just take in that aroma. Outstanding. And deep breath and release. Good, and welcome back. So we build on this daytime mindfulness exercise. Is how do I let go of BC, before COVID, and how do I avoid all the worrying of after COVID and it becomes too much and come in this present moment? It's number 1, recognizing I'm spinning because I probably had a luggage tag moment, and going down and naming that emotion and deep breathing, and then playing that 2-2-2 game. Because it really focuses us into the present moment of our sensations of what we can see and taste and hear and smell and touch. And that's how we do it during the day. So for all of you that are watching live or you're watching the recording later, I'm going to invite you to try that this week. In fact, schedule time. Make it that it's something you do before lunch every day, or before you get on your, afternoon team meeting call, or before you start your virtual class with your students. Name your emotion, deep breathing, and do the 2-2-2 game. In fact, do it with your students. Then they're not in zombie mode, just watching your slides and talk, but engaging. And we're all centering and calm and present-centered awareness, like I feel all of you now, right? It's as if that, like, I can feel your squishy fruit and the lavender lotion that you're telling me about, even though I can't smell it. I feel consciously present with all of you right here through this screen. That's the power of mindfulness. It's fascinating, isn't it? And how our brain processes that. And it just does that. And so now I go back to stress levels are high. What would the doctor tell you to do? I know our days are out of control, but I'm going to invite you all and think of this as your doctor's prescription, right? So that if you came to me and said, Romy, my anxiety is through the roof, I can't get away from the TV screens or social media, or I'm all zoomed out, but it's like I'm on calls and classes all day, and then family members, in different homes during the night. I'm going to invite you to practice digital detox at night with this anchor that sleep is sacred. I remember my mindfulness teachers in Cambodia teaching me this, and some of my Sufi teachers as well, is that in Eastern spirituality, sleep is considered sacred because when we close our eyes and sleep, the spirit leaves the body and ascends to the heavens in the night sky for that internal wisdom, that intuition. And when we wake up in the morning and we take that first breath, it should be a breath of gratitude, like, yes, I have life. I came back to earth. That sleep is sacred. Because have you ever done that? And in the morning, you're thinking, oh, my intuition is telling me I need to check in on my niece or my nephew or a long lost friend. That is your spirit. What did you do to nurture your spirit? Sleep is sacred. Sleep is also the reset we need for our mind. Remember I said restoring our spirit, our mind, and our body. And why is this important? Many of you have heard this. I'm just here to reiterate it from a doctor's point of view. Any of these blue lights, and in fact, the latest research studies in November show all of the lights, the ring light that's above my computer screen right now to give me this nice glow for this lecture and recording, the blue light from your computer screen, the smart television, all of it is emitting this blue light. And even if you have your blue blocker glasses on, that'll help you with eye strain, but it still doesn't help your cortisol. Your stress hormone levels are revving up, and it's nighttime. They're supposed to be coming down so you can feel calm and fall asleep. But what happens with these lights, they not only raise your stress hormone levels, your sleep good and feel good hormones, serotonin and melatonin, they drop because there's too much light all over. And you're like, oh, no wonder I take melatonin or some overpriced supplement that had all those ingredients and it's not working. This is why the light is interfering with the chemistry of our brain. So I ask you to turn your digital devices off 30 to 60 minutes before bedtime. And there's this collective gasp, oh my God, what am I going to do? What is my spouse going to do? Good Lord, what are my teenage children going to do? Like, our digital devices have been a savior, during quarantine, but 30 to 60 minutes. And what I want you to do is do a brain dump, right? With traditional pen and paper, all your thoughts down on a list and get it all out. Your worries, your anxiety, whatever made you angry, whatever you saw on the news, just get it out. Whatever somebody said on Facebook. Because why? If we write it down on pen and paper, we're less likely to go off on someone on Facebook, right? I mean, we've all been there in the last few months, really. We have. So we start with the digital detox and the brain dump, because for those of you that are following our science, cognitive behavioral therapy studies, CBT studies have actually, they started with journaling, but they actually show even list building helps us to turn off that marathon in our brain. It's telling our brain, hey, Romy, you don't need to stress and obsess about this or commit it to memory. It's gone. So now, like, you stop ruminating about it. And then we go back to meditation. And I wanted to end this, and then we'll do Q&A with this meditation and these steps. And if you go to drromy.com/rise, this recorded meditation is going to be there for you. Whether you are here live or you're watching the recording, I'll make sure that the staff puts the link into the recording to download these same meditations for you. And so we start, and I ask you, find a comfortable seated position and either close your eyes or find a focal point straight ahead to look at. And I want you to just drop down deep into your breathing. Inhale, holding the breath, and deep exhale out. Inhale, hold, and deep exhale out. Last one, deep breath in and exhale. So for many of you, we started to bring up luggage tags and the emotional baggage and the memories we have. Allow all of those thoughts and images and memories, no judgment, to come and wash over you as if you're sitting under a waterfall of your thoughts and emotions and stories. And just continue to breathe through it. And as you breathe with that waterfall and all these stories and worries or anything that's there, just connect to your breath and know that it's okay. And is there one particular worry that you arrived with to this call? There was something that compelled you to sit down with me this afternoon. And it's at the forefront of your mind, and I actually want you to focus on that. Bring it to your awareness. And now imagine that there is a large, clear beach ball at your feet. It's known as the thought bubble meditation of mindfulness meditation. And I want you to imagine that anytime a thought or a worry or an idea or an emotion from that comes to your mind, that you're just emptying your mind and watching yourself place it in that bubble at your feet. And keep breathing. And if nothing is coming to you, lovely, just keep continuing to fill that bubble with your breath. And as we all collectively release the emotional baggage that is no longer serving us, all of our collective bubbles on this call rise to the level of our knees and our abdomen. And as the thoughts and the images and the stories come to you, just continue to put it away in the bubble. And our collective bubbles, as we breathe, rise to the level of our hearts and our throats. And if there's something we are feeling or need to speak and we can't get it out, we just place that in the bubble. Yes, and release. And as we breathe, that bubble rises to the level of our forehead and our head. Just imagine anything that's creating that busy brain and all those thoughts and ideas just emptying out into that bubble. And as you breathe, our bubbles rise towards our ceiling and through the roof where we're sitting right now. And they just rise all over California and in Colorado and Florida and everywhere else we're sitting right now. And this is known as detaching from your thoughts and your emotions. They're still there, and when they come, we just breathe and send them out into the bubble. And just connect to breath and focus on inhaling calm and exhaling out the peace. And anytime anything comes to you, we send it off in the bubble. Yes, and we release. And whenever you're ready, just want you to send that bubble and that worry away. And wiggle your toes. Extend your fingers out long for the new opportunities that are in reach for all of us. And whenever you're ready, you can open up your eyes and welcome back. This is a mindfulness-based exercise known as the thought bubble meditation. There's a lot of overwhelm that we're feeling today from circumstances that are out of each and every one of our control. And right when we think we have some semblance of control, another thing drops. It's okay. Just know that that bubble is always available to you to breathe in and release and send away. And come back to that 2-2-2-2 meditation. What am I seeing right now? So just orient yourself. What are my 2 things that I'm hearing right now? Listen deeply. What are 2 things I can touch right now? And feel the sensation of the touch. And what are 2 things I can taste or smell right now? And take in that aroma or that taste. And we come back and we center ourselves. Now, if you were sitting in the clinic with me and I had a heart rate monitor, blood pressure monitor, EEG, I guarantee you your stress numbers would have come down about 10 points just going through those few meditative exercises and training your brain to come to present-centered awareness. So isn't this a lovely feeling for those of you that are feeling relaxed, going, Dr. Romy, I wish I could be here all the time, right? But that's not reality. But this is always accessible to us. You can always take a pause, daytime, and do digital detox, the 2-2-2 meditation and deep breathing. And at night, I welcome you, your doctor's prescription to choose calm. And how do we do that? That at night, I want us to sleep again, and that sleep is sacred. So turn off all of your devices, your tablets, your e-readers, the smart TVs, your phones. Do a brain dump or a heart dump, everything that is, just write down a list. You don't need to share it with anybody. And try that thought bubble meditation and set that positive intention that you will sleep, we will all get through this, and that you will all be united on campus with each other as colleagues and your students soon. That we'll never again take for granted what we're seeing, what we can touch, what we can hear, each other's voices, what we can taste in our favorite restaurants. We won't take that for granted again because we will be more present. And so it is. So I end the story with that call to action. That could you digital detox, let go of what is no longer serving you, our little luggage tag moments, by writing it all down and deep breathing. You know, mindfulness saved my life. I'm here 10 years later. When I went in for my follow-up appointment at 6 months, they thought they needed to do additional surgeries. And my manometry test of how they measure the pressures in your esophagus and stomach and intestines and the biopsy have all normalized. 10 years later, I'm still here. All praise to the God, to the universe, healthy, and I'm a woman on a mission. And many of you told me you have a mindfulness and meditation practice. So remember, this training of your brain and building this resilience is how we're all going to rebound. So I thank you all for being present.
So I just want to thank you, Dr. Romy, for spending this hour with us. Thank you to all my colleagues who are on the call and for actually setting aside the time to come here and to, I think that was the first step, right? Is to realize that we needed this. We needed this as a group. So I appreciate you, Dr. Romy. And again, on behalf of Coast Colleges, we thank you for your presentation. And to remind our colleagues, there will be one more next Thursday at 11 o'clock where we'll be discussing balancing space. So please register through Cornerstone. Again, I appreciate all of you being here. And Dr. Romy said it, we can't do this alone. And so all of you who are my colleagues and my support system, and now Dr. Romy's been added to that support system, and Cindy, I thank you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
thank you all. It's an honor, and thank you for giving us your time. An honor to be of service, and I'm going to hold that intention that one day I'll be out leading a meditation on that quad behind
Oh,
you
yes.
in person, Rebecca and Claudia. I look forward to that.
You have an open invitation. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody, that concludes our webinar today.